candles on the dining table had burned down to stubborn little nubs of wax. I stared at the congealed cheese on the lasagna's absolute favorite and felt my stomach twist into a tight knot. It was 9:45 p.m. "He's just busy," I whispered to the empty room, smoothing the fabric of the expensive silk dress I had bought specifically for tonight. "He's building our future." That was the lie I had told myself for 5 years. I looked around the living room I had designed myself. Every cushion, every painting, every shade of paint was a testament to the career I had sacrificed. I was supposed to be an interior designer, but instead, I became Derek's secretary, his maid, and his emotional support system while he built his tech company. Click. I shot up from the chair, forcing a bright smile onto my face. "Derek?" I called out, my heart racing with a mix of relief and anxiety. "Happy anniversary!" He walked right past the dining table, past the candles, past me. "No, listen to me," he said into the phone, his voice dropping to a low, intimate rumble I hadn't heard in years. "I'll handle her tonight. Just wait for me, okay?" He hung up and finally glanced my way. His eyes were cold, devoid of any warmth. "I'm exhausted, Elara. Don't start with a needy act right now." "I ate at the office," he muttered, peeling off his suit jacket and tossing it carelessly onto the armchair. "I'm going to shower." He marched upstairs without another word. I stood there, feeling foolish. My hands shook as I reached for his jacket. As I lifted the jacket, something crinkled in the inner pocket. I frowned. I reached in and pulled out a slip of paper. It was a receipt. Tiffany & Co. Diamond pendant, $5,000, dated today. My breath hitched. A smile tugged at my lips despite the pain. He did remember. He was hiding the gift. He probably wanted to surprise me later. I wanted to see the box. I knew I shouldn't snoop, but I couldn't help it. His briefcase was in his home office down the hall. I pushed the office door open. The room smelled different tonight. Usually it smelled of stale coffee and paper. I walked to the mahogany desk. There was no gift box. But sitting on a coaster right next to his laptop was a wine glass. I frowned. Derek hated wine. He was a whiskey man. I picked up the glass, holding it up to the dim light. My heart stopped. There on the rim of the glass was a smudge. I spun around. Derek was standing in the doorway, his shirt unbuttoned. My voice trembled, barely a whisper. He sighed, leaning against the doorframe and crossing his arms. "Put that down." "There is red lipstick on this glass," I said, my voice rising. He laughed. It was a cruel, dry sound. "It's not for you." The room spun. "What?" "The necklace, the wine." "None of it is for you," he said, walking into the room and snatching the glass from my hand. He set it down gently, as if the lipstick mark was precious. "It's been over for a long time, Elara. I just didn't have the time to sit you down and explain it. I gave up everything for you." I screamed, tears finally spilling over. "My career, my savings. I built this life with you." "You decorated a house," he corrected coldly. "I built an empire." "You're small-time, Elara. I've outgrown you." "Who is she?" "Layla," he said, a smirk playing on his lips. "She's my new business partner. She's younger, she's wealthier, and she actually understands the business world. She's an asset. You're just a liability. I am your wife. Start packing. Layla hates clutter, and she's moving in next week." He walked out, leaving me standing in the dark, the scent of another woman's perfume suffocating me.
"You signed this without a lawyer present?" Mr. Sterling asked, peering over his spectacles. His office smelled of stale tobacco and old paper, a stark contrast to the sterile, high-end law firms Derek used. He said it was just a formality to protect his investors. He tapped the document with a yellow-stained finger. "Well, this formality says you waive all rights to marital assets, business equity, and spousal support. You get the 2016 sedan and a one-time payout of $5,000. That's it. $5,000? I choked out. I put 10 years of my life into his career. I designed our house from the ground up. "Doesn't matter," Sterling said, closing the file with a thud. "Legally, that house belongs to the trust. You're walking away with crumbs, kid. If we fight it, you'll go bankrupt in legal fees before we even get to a judge. So I just sign. You sign, or you bleed out slowly, your choice." We walked into the mediation room 10 minutes later. The air conditioning was set to freezing. Derek sat at the head of the long glass table, looking immaculate in a charcoal suit. Next to him sat Layla. She was stunning, I had to admit. Glossy black hair, sharp features, and diamonds that probably cost more than my college tuition. She looked up from her phone as I entered. Finally, Layla sighed, checking her watch. We have a flight to Milan at 6, Derek. Make this quick. No anger, no sadness, just business. Derek, I nodded, sitting opposite them. I felt small in my thrifted blazer. Lila leaned over to Derek, not bothering to lower her voice. Is she wearing polyester? God, that cut is so outdated. No wonder you were bored. My face burned. I can hear you. Leela smirked, her eyes cold. I know. I'm doing you a favor. Maybe use that settlement money to buy a wardrobe that fits this decade. Enough, Leela, Derek said, sliding a stack of papers across the table. Just sign the papers, Elara. The quitclaim for the house is on top. I looked at the document. The address my home stared back at me. I handpicked the tiles for the kitchen, I said, my voice trembling. I planted the rose garden. We're gutting it anyway, Leela interrupted, inspecting her manicure. It's too domestic. We need something. Modern, interrupted, inspecting her manicure. It's too domestic. It's too domestic. We need something modern. Open concept. You're destroying it? I looked at Derek. You love that house. I love the convenience of it, Derek replied, uncapping a heavy black pen. Things change. Sign here. Mr. Sterling nudged my elbow. Just do it, Elara. My hand shook as I took the pen. The black ink flowed onto the page, dark and permanent. With every signature, I felt a piece of my history being erased. Done, Derek said, snatching the papers back the second I lifted the pen. He didn't even look me in the eye. Good luck, Elara. Let's go, babe, Leela said, linking her arm through his. I need a drink. They walked out without looking back. I stumbled out of the courthouse 10 minutes later. The sky had turned a bruised shade of purple, and thunder rumbled overhead. I stood on the sidewalk, rain soaking instantly through my cheap blazer. I checked my bank app on my phone. Balance, $5,240. I had no husband. I had no home. I had no career. Water dripped off the end of my nose, mixing with the hot tears I couldn't hold back anymore. I wrapped my arms around myself, shivering, while the city moved on around me, completely indifferent to the fact that my life had just ended.
It smells like wet dog and despair in here, Elara. Maya didn't knock. She never knocked. She just barged into the gloom, her bright yellow raincoat the only splash of color in my gray subterranean world. She shook her umbrella, sending cold droplets flying onto the concrete floor. I don't care, I mumbled, pulling the thin, scratchy blanket over my head to block out the light. Go away. Nope. Not happening. The blanket was ripped off me violently. You haven't showered in 3 days. You look like a raccoon. Get up. I ignored her and grabbed my phone from the milk crate I was using as a knit stand. The screen lit up my face, harsh and bright. Look at them, Maya, I whispered, my voice cracking. Just look. I shoved the phone at her. On the screen, Derek looked tan and happy, holding a glass of white wine against a backdrop of blue domes and sparkling sea. Lila was wearing a white dress that probably cost more than my car, laughing at something he said. The caption read, New Beginnings in Santorini. We were supposed to go there, I said, a tear sliding down my nose. For our 10th anniversary. We promised. Stop torturing yourself, Maya snapped, snatching the phone from my hand and tossing it onto the lumpy sofa. He's trash, Elle. She's trash wrapped in designer silk. Forget them. I can't. He took everything, my life, my confidence. My money. I curled up tightly. I tried to sell my portfolio today. Maya softened instantly. She sat on the edge of the sagging mattress, the springs groaning under her weight. The sketches from your design degree? The lake house concepts? I nodded, wiping my nose on my sleeve. I walked 40 minutes to that boutique from downtown. The one I used to dream about working for. And? They're brilliant sketches. The manager didn't even look at the second page, I choked out. He glanced at the first render and laughed. He said my style was quaint and too domestic. He asked if I had any experience with commercial industrial renders. When I said no, he showed me the door. He offered me an internship, Maya, an unpaid internship. Idiots, Maya scoffed, reaching out to squeeze my knee. They don't know talent, they know business. I cried out, sitting up. And I don't. I'm 30 years old living in a basement that floods when it rains. I have rent due in 2 days and $40 in my pocket. I'm worthless. Derek was right. I'm a liability. Maya grabbed my shoulders, her grip tight enough to bruise. Her dark eyes locked onto mine, burning with intensity. Listen to me right now. You are not worthless. You were the brain behind Derek's life. You organized him, you styled him, you made him look human enough to get investors. You built him. And look where it got me, I sniffled. It got you a hard lesson, Maya said firmly. But you're still here. Look, crying over him is exactly what he expects. He thinks you're going to fade away into this mold and disappear. She stood up and dragged me to the cracked mirror leaning against the brick wall. Look at yourself, Elara. I looked. My hair was a matted bird's nest. My eyes were swollen shut. My collarbones poked out too much under my oversized t-shirt. I looked like a ghost haunting my own life. Is this who you are? She asked. No, I whispered. Success is the best revenge, but you have to stop crying to see it, Maya said, her voice dropping to a fierce whisper. Make him regret the day he underestimated you. Get mad, Elara. Get even. I stared at my reflection. The sadness began to curdle into something hotter. Anger. Pure, clean anger. I saw the spark of the woman I used to be before I became Derek's wife. I wiped my face with the back of my hand, smearing the tears away. You're right, I said, my voice gaining strength. I'm done crying. Good, Maya grinned, picking up my towel and throwing it at my face. Now shower. We have work to do. I'm sorry, Miss Vance, Mr. Rowe said, sliding my colorful business plan back across the polished mahogany desk as if it were a dirty napkin. The concept is lovely, really. But the risk assessment is ... problematic. Problematic how? I asked, keeping my back straight and my voice steady. I have a degree in interior design. I successfully managed the complete renovation of a $2 million property just 3 years ago. A property which was solely under your husband's name, he pointed out, tapping his computer screen with a dismissive finger. I'm looking at your credit history, Elara. You haven't had a primary income stream in 5 years. You have no credit cards in your own name. You're invisible to the system. I existed, I insisted, gripping the leather armrest of the chair until my knuckles turned white. I worked every day. I managed the contractors, the budget, the sourcing ... Not on paper, Mr. Rowe interrupted, offering a tight, pitying smile. Without a guarantor or significant collateral, I can't approve a business loan. Perhaps if you asked your ex-husband to co-sign. The bile rose in my throat, hot and acidic. Thank you for your time, Mr. Rowe. I walked out of the bank with my head high, but the moment the heavy glass doors closed behind me, I slumped. I bought the cheapest black coffee available and hid in the corner booth of the cafe next door. I felt hollow, invisible, just like Derek had said. I am going to sue him. I swear it. The shrill voice cut through the noise of the espresso machine. I looked up. A woman in an impeccable tweed Chanel suit was pacing furiously near the window, her phone pressed to her ear. It was Mrs. Higgins. I recognized her immediately from the social pages, the city's toughest, most critical charity organizer. The gala is tomorrow night, Charles. She practically screamed, and the ballroom looks like a funeral parlor. He used heavy gray velvet, gray. It's supposed to be a spring awakening, not a wake. She slammed the phone down on the nearest table, burying her face in her manicured hands. I'm going to be the laughingstock of the foundation. My heart hammered against my ribs. Don't do it, a voice whispered in my head. You're a nobody. You live in a basement. No, another voice answered. I'm a designer. And I have nothing left to lose. I stood up and walked over before I could lose my nerve. Excuse me? Mrs. Higgins snapped her head up, her eyes narrowing into slits. Do I know you? No, I said, my hand shaking slightly behind my back. But I couldn't help but overhear. You need the ballroom fixed by tomorrow? I need a miracle, she scoffed, turning away. Unless you have a magic wand, go away. I don't have a wand, I said quickly. But I know that gray velvet absorbs light, making a room feel dead. You need light, reflective fabrics to bounce the chandelier's glow. Champagne silk, maybe accents of teal to bring in the spring theme without being tacky. She paused, slowly turning back to look me up and down. You're a decorator? I'm a problem solver, I lied, projecting a confidence I didn't feel. I can fix your venue. I'll work overnight. If you hate it, you don't pay me a dime. And if I like it, you cover the material costs and write me a recommendation letter. That's it. She studied my face, looking for the catch. Desperation was a powerful motivator for both of us. You have 24 hours, she said, pulling a platinum credit card from her purse and sliding it across the table. Don't disappoint me. I took the card, my fingers tingled. It wasn't fear anymore. It was the rush of the game. I was back. My arms are going to fall off, Chloe groaned, dropping a heavy roll of gray velvet onto the dusty floor. I signed up for assistant, not indentured servant. You signed up for $50 and free pizza. I reminded her, wiping sweat from my forehead with the back of my hand. Less complaining, more painting. The primer needs to dry before we hang the silk. You know, for a lady who wears pearls, you scrub floors like a maniac. Where did you learn to spackle like that? Renovating my ex-husband's 3 investment properties, I muttered, dipping my brush. I did the work. He took the equity. Ouch, she said, wincing. So, this gig? This is the comeback? This is survival, Chloe. If Mrs. Higgins hates this, I can't pay you. Motivation accepted, she saluted with a roller. Let's cover this tomb. We worked in a frenzy for 6 hours. The air was thick with the smell of latex paint and sawdust. We transformed the gloomy gray walls into a soft, pearlescent cream. What was that? Chloe froze. Before I could answer, a jet of dirty water sprayed from a pipe in the ceiling corner directly onto the freshly painted feature wall. No, no, no. I screamed, scrambling down the ladder. Grab a bucket. Anything. Chloe threw a trash can under the leak, but the damage was done. A dark, ugly stain was spreading across the cream wall like a bruise. I sank to the floor, staring at it. My hands shook. The exhaustion hit me all at once. It's ruined, I whispered. It's all ruined. We can paint over it, Chloe said, grabbing a rag. We have a hairdryer. It won't dry in time. I buried my face in my hands. I'm just a fraud playing pretend. Hey, Chloe snapped, dropping to her knees beside me. Stop it. Who cares what Derek thinks? Is he here? No, it's just us. Fix it? I looked at the stain, then at the pile of leftover materials. My eyes landed on the sheer, glittering tool I'd bought for the tables. With the tool? Chloe asked, confused. Yes, help me staple it. We layer it from the ceiling down. It'll catch the light and look like an intentional design choice. We worked like madwomen. By 7 a.m., the stain was hidden behind layers of cascading, shimmering fabric. At 7:15 a.m., the double doors swung open. Mrs. Higgins walked in, her heels clicking ominously on the hardwood. She stopped in the center of the room. I held my breath, gripping Chloe's hand. Mrs. Higgins turned slowly, her eyes scanning the cream walls, the champagne silk, and finally, the tulle waterfall. I didn't think you could do it, she said softly. Is it to your liking? I asked, my heart hammering. She walked up to the tulle feature. This texture ... it's exquisite. It catches the light beautifully, very avant-garde. I let out a breath I didn't know I was holding. Thank you. She scribbled something and tore it out. Here, and I'll tell the caterer to add you to the vendor list. She handed me the check. It was for $2,000. It wasn't a fortune, but it was mine. I had earned every cent. 2 hours later, I sat on the floor of my basement apartment with Maya and Chloe. We passed a bottle of $5 champagne between us. To Mrs. Higgins. Chloe cheered, raising a plastic cup. To the tulle waterfall, Maya laughed. I took the bottle, feeling the warmth spread through my chest. To not needing him, I said, taking a long sip. And to getting paid. I can't clone myself, Maya, I said, rubbing my temples. I have 3 invoices to file, Mrs. Gable's living room to finish, and I'm pretty sure I have paint in my hair. You don't need a clone. You need capital, Maya said, dragging me through the doors of the downtown convention center. That's why we're here. The small business mixer. Smile, Elara, you look like you're walking to the gallows. I hate these things, I muttered, smoothing down my thrifted blazer. It's just a room full of people pretending to be more successful than they are. Take it till you make it, she winked, disappearing into the crowd to find the open bar. I sighed and retreated to the corner of the room near a potted plant. I wasn't in the mood to hustle, I just wanted to sleep. You look like you'd rather be anywhere else, a low voice said from my right. I turned. A man was leaning against the wall, swirling a glass of amber liquid. He was tall, dressed in a suit that fit too perfectly to be off the rack, and he had intense dark eyes that seemed to dissect me. Is it that obvious? I asked. You're hiding behind a fern, he noted dryly. I'm Ethan. Elara, I said, not bothering to offer a hand. And yes, I'm hiding. I'm tired of the pitch. Everyone here wants to change the world with an app. I just want to fix living rooms. Just fix living rooms? He asked, raising an eyebrow. That sounds small. It's not small, I snapped, feeling a flash of defensiveness. It's vital. People live in boxes that make them miserable. My ex-husband loved cold, sharp edges. No warmth, it killed the spirit. I do emotional architecture. I design spaces that heal people. He stopped swirling his drink. He turned fully toward me. Emotional architecture. That's a good tagline. Is that your business model? It's my life model, I said, realizing I had no reason to filter myself with this stranger. I rebuild spaces for people who have been broken, like me. Broken? My husband traded me in for a newer model, I said, letting out a harsh laugh. He told me I was a liability. He took my house, my money, and my pride. So now I'm building a business to prove that I'm worth more than he ever was. I'm running on caffeine and spite. I covered my mouth. I can't believe I just said that. I'm sorry. I shouldn't unload on a stranger. Don't apologize, Ethan said. His expression hadn't changed, but his eyes were gleaming. Honesty is expensive. Most people can't afford it. He reached into his jacket pocket and pulled out a sleek black metal card. He held it out to me. I'm a venture capitalist, Elara. I look for high-risk, high-reward founders. You have the fire. You just need the fuel. I stared at the card. Ethan Blackwood. Managing partner, Blackwood Capital. I took a step back, my heart thumping. I don't need a man to rescue me. I just got out of a cage. I'm not looking for another keeper. I don't want to keep you, Ethan said, his voice steady and serious. I want a 30% return on my investment. I don't care about your personal life, and I don't want to control your creative process. I want to make money. And I think you're going to make a lot of it. He placed the card on the small cocktail table between us. Strictly business, he said. Call me when you're ready to stop hiding behind ferns. He walked away, disappearing into the crowd. I picked up the card. It was heavy, cold, and solid. For the first time since the divorce, I didn't feel fear. I felt an opportunity. Strictly business, I whispered to myself, slipping the card into my pocket. I can do business. It fits perfectly, Maya said, stepping back to admire the frosted glass door. Phoenix interiors. Way better than the basement view of a brick wall. It's real, I whispered, running my fingers over the sleek modern desk Ethan's investment had paid for. We have an office. We have a payroll. And we have a problem, Maya said, her face falling as she held up the office phone. It's Mr. Henderson, the tile supplier. I snatched the phone. Mr. Henderson? The limestone for the gallery project is due tomorrow. I can't deliver, Elara. His voice crackled nervously. The stock is gone. Gone? I paid a deposit. Marcus bought it, he admitted. He bought the whole shipment. He offered double in cash to prioritize his hotel project. I'm sorry, but money talks. I slammed the phone down, my hands trembling. Marcus, the owner of Titan Build. He had been poaching my subcontractors for weeks, trying to squeeze me out before I could grow. He wants to play dirty? I asked, grabbing my coat. Fine. I drove straight to the industrial district, but I didn't go to the importers. I went to the old salvage yard on the edge of town. You look lost, lady. The yard owner grunted, wiping grease from his hands. I'm looking for soul, I said, scanning the piles of reclaimed barnwood and rusted copper panels. My client wants authentic. Italy is too polished. I need grit. 3 days later, I stood in the gallery with my client, a notoriously picky curator. Marcus had tried to block me from the marble, so I had paneled the walls in treated, reclaimed oak and oxidized copper. It's dramatic, the curator whispered, running a hand over the rough wood. It feels alive. The marble would have been so cold, so expected. This is art. It's emotional architecture, I said smoothly. We turn the past into the future. I love it, she beamed. I'm telling everyone. My phone buzzed as I walked out of the gallery. It was a text from Marcus. Lucky break. Won't happen again? I typed back. Watch me. Back at the office, the atmosphere was electric. We were booking clients faster than we could hire staff. I was burying myself in blueprints, barely sleeping, fueled by espresso and ambition. Elara, stop working for a second, Maya said, walking into my office with a tablet. Her voice was serious. I have a meeting in 10 minutes, I said, not looking up. It's Derek. My pen stopped. I looked up. Maya turned the screen toward me. A news headline flashed in bold red letters. Vance Tech and Mila Court merger facing SEC probe for irregularities. They're in trouble, Maya said, a grin spreading across her face. Legal trouble. The stock dropped 12 points this morning. I stared at the screen. I remembered Derek's arrogant smirk when he told me I was a liability. I remembered Lila's laugh. Are you okay? Maya asked gently. I'm fine, I said, my voice steady and cold. I didn't feel joy. I didn't feel sad. I felt ... efficient. Does this make you happy? It makes me focused, I said, pushing the tablet away. Bad decisions have consequences, Maya. He's making his and I'm making mine. I picked up my pen. Now get me the file on the penthouse project. We have an empire to build. I was debating between the organic kale and the spinach when a voice I hadn't heard in a year stopped me cold. Elara? Is that you? I froze. I turned slowly to see Mrs. Vance standing by the apples. She used to be impeccable, hair sprayed into a helmet of perfection, makeup severe. Now her roots were showing and there was a coffee stain on her blouse. Mrs. Vance, I said, keeping my voice neutral. Hello. She blinked, her eyes scanning my tailored coat and the designer bag resting in my cart. You look ... different, expensive, offensive. I winked, her eyes scanning my tailored coat and the designer bag resting in my cart. You look ... different, expensive. Business is good, I said, reaching for the kale. I should go. Wait, she said, stepping in front of my cart. Please. I haven't seen you since the ... since the court date. I've been busy. It's been hard, you know, she sighed, her shoulders slumping dramatically. Derek is so stressed, he never visits. And that woman ... Lila. She whispered the name like a curse. She fired the housekeeper I hired. She says I interfere too much. Can you imagine? She refuses to eat my roast. Lila has particular tastes, I said, tightening my grip on the cart handle. She's demanding, Mrs. Vance huffed. The house is cold. It doesn't feel like a home anymore, not like when you were there. You always knew how to make things comfortable, Elara. We miss that. I felt a sharp, bitter laugh bubble up in my throat. You miss the comfort, or you miss the servant? Her eyes widened. That's not fair. We were family. Family? I stepped closer, my voice low and hard. When Derek told you he was cheating on me, you told him to secure the assets before breaking the news. You sat in the front row of the courtroom and smirked at me while I lost my home. I was supporting my son. She stammered. And now you have him, I said, pushing my cart past her. And you have Lila, enjoy them both. Mrs. Vance, you lost the right to speak to me the day you chose his money over my dignity. I walked away, my heart pounding, leaving her standing alone in the produce aisle. I didn't look back. 2 hours later, the shaking had stopped, replaced by the warm glow of candlelight at Le Monde, the city's most exclusive restaurant. To the Skyline contract, Ethan said, raising his wine glass. You crushed that presentation, Elara. They liked the sketches, I smiled, clinking my glass against his. But your number crunching sealed the deal. We make a good team, he said. He wasn't looking at the wine. He was looking at me. The air between us shifted. It wasn't just business admiration anymore. It was heavy, magnetic. Ethan reached across the table, his fingers brushing the back of my hand. His skin was warm. You don't have to be made of iron all the time, he said softly. You can let your guard down, just for tonight. For a second, I wanted to. I wanted to lean into his touch to feel safe. But then I saw Mrs. Vance's face in my mind. I saw Derek's sneer. Vulnerability is a liability, I reminded myself. I gently pulled my hand away, picking up my menu. Iron doesn't break, Ethan, and I have a company to run. He watched me for a long moment, a flicker of disappointment in his eyes, before he nodded respectfully. Understood. Strictly business. Strictly business, I echoed, though my voice was softer this time. I excused myself to the restroom. Leaning against the marble sink, I pulled out my phone. I didn't check my messages. I checked the market. Vance Tech, minus 18%. Analyst note, insider trading rumors swarm as merger halts. A cold, satisfied smile touched my lips in the mirror. Burn, I whispered. Burn it all down. The pen is heavy, isn't it? Mr. Tanaka asked, a small smile playing on his lips as he slid the leather-bound document across the obsidian conference table. It carries the weight of 40 luxury hotels across 3 continents. I picked up the pen. My hand didn't shake this time. It's not heavy, Mr. Tanaka. It feels like an anchor being lifted. Then sign, he said. Make Phoenix Interiors the exclusive design firm for the Tanaka Global Group. I signed. The ink flowed smoothly, sealing a deal worth more zeros than I could have comprehended a year ago. Congratulations, Ethan said from the corner of the room. He wasn't smiling, but his eyes were shining with that intense pride I had grown to rely on. You just went global, Elara. We went global, I corrected him, standing up to shake Mr. Tanaka's hand. Later that afternoon, the office was chaotic. But it was a different kind of chaos, champagne corks popping and phones ringing off the hook. Sit down, don't move. A woman with fiery red hair and glasses that took up half her face pushed me into a makeup chair. This was Isabel, Ethan's sister and the city's most terrifying publicist. Isabel, I have work to do, I protested as she applied powder to my nose. I'm a designer, not a model. Wrong, Isabel snapped, spinning the chair around so I faced the mirror. You are a brand. You are the queen of comebacks. That's the headline regarding the Forbes feature coming out next month. Queen of comebacks, I laughed. That sounds dramatic. People love drama, she said, scrolling through her tablet. They love that you were the discarded wife who built an empire. Look at these engagement numbers, Elara, you're pulling higher than movie stars. And by the way, with the Tanaka down payment clearing this morning, do you know what that means? That we can expand the warehouse? No, she grinned, leaning in close. It means your personal net worth just surpassed Derek's by about $4 million, I stopped. The room went silent around me. I'm richer than him? Richer, smarter, and significantly better dressed, Isabel winked. Now go look at some real estate. You can't be a billionaire living in a rental. 2 days later, I stood in the center of an empty living room on the 45th floor. The walls were glass. The city lay spread out beneath me like a circuit board of gold and silver lights. It's the crown jewel of the building, the real estate agent said, hovering nervously by the door. Private elevator, heated floors, and the best view in the city. It's expensive, though. I'll take it, I said, not even asking the price. I walked out onto the balcony. The wind whipped through my hair. I looked down at the streets where I used to walk in the rain, crying over a man who thought I was nothing. I won, I whispered to the wind. I actually won. My phone buzzed in my pocket. I pulled it out, expecting a text from Maya or Ethan. I stared at the screen. My breath caught in my throat. Facebook notification. Derek Vance sent you a friend request. I stared at the name. A year ago, I would have given anything for him to reach out. Now, looking at his small, pixelated face, I felt nothing but a cold, distant amusement. Too little, I said aloud, tapping the screen. I didn't decline it. I didn't accept it. I left it on pending. Let him wait. I had a view to enjoy. Are you ready? Ethan asked, offering me his arm as the valet opened the car door. The flashbulbs popped instantly, blinding white lights against the night sky. I smoothed the fabric of my dress. It wasn't black and it wasn't subtle. It was a deep blood-red crimson silk that fit like a second skin with a slit that went dangerously high. I was born ready, I whispered, stepping out onto the red carpet. They're going to lose their minds, Ethan murmured near my ear, guiding me toward the entrance of the grand ballroom. Chin up, Elara, you own this room. We walked through the double doors. The hum of conversation died down almost instantly. Heads turned. I heard the whispers ripple through the crowd like a wave. Is that Elara? No, it can't be. She looks stunning. I kept my eyes forward, a polite, frozen smile on my lips. Then I saw them. They were standing near the ice sculpture. Lila was wearing a gold dress that looked too tight, and she wasn't even looking at Derek. She was laughing loudly, her hand on the arm of a silver-haired banking tycoon. Derek stood next to her, holding a champagne flute. He looked awful. His face was puffy, his tie was crooked, and there were dark circles under his eyes. He was watching Lila with a look of desperate jealousy. He looks like he hasn't slept in a week, Ethan noted quietly. Karma is a loud neighbor, I replied. As if feeling my gaze, Derek turned. His eyes swept over the room, bored, until they landed on me. His eyes widened. His jaw actually went slack. Smash. The sound of shattering glass cut through the jazz music. Derek had dropped his champagne flute. The crystal exploded on the marble floor, soaking his expensive shoes. The room went silent. Lila spun around, annoyed. Derek, you clumsy idiot. You splashed my hem. Derek ignored her. He stepped over the broken glass, his eyes locked on mine. He started walking toward me, pushing past a waiter. Here we go, I said to Ethan. Let me handle this. Ethan nodded and took a step back, giving me space. He reeked of scotch. Is that you? Hello, Derek, I said, my voice cool and clear. You're making a scene. You look... He shook his head, looking me up and down with a hunger that made my skin crawl. My God, you look incredible. That red. It's your color. I know, I said. Excuse me, I have guests to greet. I tried to step around him, but he blocked my path. Wait, he said, reaching out to grab my arm. I pulled back sharply before he could touch me. Don't, I warned. I just thought. I haven't seen you, he stammered, his arrogance replaced by a pathetic sort of confusion. Lila is... She's impossible, Elara. She's cold. She doesn't listen to me like you did. I miss having someone who understands me. You miss having a doormat, I corrected him. Go clean your shoes, Derek. You're embarrassing yourself. He chuckled nervously, running a hand through his messy hair. Come on, babe. Don't be like that. We have history. I made a mistake, okay? I admit it. But we can fix this. You and me. We were a team. The word hung in the air. Babe. The temperature in the room seemed to drop 10 degrees. I stepped closer to him, towering over him in my heels. Babe? I repeated, loud enough for the surrounding circle of elites to hear. I just meant ... He stuttered, realizing his slip. Let me be very clear, I said, my voice cutting like a knife. The woman you called Babe is gone. You killed her when you left her penniless in the rain. Let them watch, I said, raising my voice slightly. And let's get the introductions right. I am not your wife. I am not your babe. I am Elara Vance, the CEO of Phoenix Interiors. And frankly, Mr. Vance, you can't afford my time anymore. I held his gaze for one long, agonizing second. I saw the humiliation wash over him, turning his face a deep shade of red. Enjoy the gala, I said dismissively. I turned on my heel, the red silk swirling around my legs, and walked away. I didn't need to look back to know that every eye in the room was on me, and Derek was standing alone in a puddle of spilled champagne. Miss Vance, I'm sorry to interrupt, but there's a man in the lobby. He says it's an emergency. He says he's your husband. My receptionist's voice crackled over the intercom, sounding panicked. I pressed the button, keeping my eyes on the quarterly projections on my screen. I don't have a husband, Sarah. Call security. Elara, please. The heavy oak doors to my office flew open before security could arrive. Derek stumbled in. His suit was wrinkled, his tie was missing, and he hadn't shaved in days. He smelled faintly of stale scotch and desperation. Derek? I asked, leaning back in my leather executive chair. You have 5 seconds before the guards drag you out. She took it, he gasped, collapsing into the guest chair opposite my desk. He buried his face in his hands. She took everything. Who? I asked, though I already knew. Leela, he choked out, looking up with bloodshot eyes. She emptied the joint accounts on Tuesday. She transferred the operating capital to an offshore shell company. She filed for divorce yesterday morning from a hotel in Dubai. I stared at him. The irony was so thick I could almost taste it. She cleaned you out? I asked calmly, just like that? She left me with nothing, Elara. The company is insolvent. The payroll checks are going to bounce on Friday. I'm facing bankruptcy, maybe even fraud charges for the missing funds. That sounds incredibly stressful, I said, my voice devoid of sympathy. But I fail to see how this is my problem. I need a loan, he blurted out, leaning over the desk. Just to cover payroll and hire a forensic accountant. I can pay you back once I liquidate the assets. You want me to loan you money? I let out a short, incredulous laugh. The same money you told me I was too stupid to earn. I was wrong, he cried, his voice cracking. I was an idiot, Elara. I know that now. She was a shark. But you were always the kind one. You were my partner. He reached out, trying to grab my hand resting on the desk. Remember the lake house? He pleaded, changing tactics. Remember how we used to talk about growing old there? We had something real, Elara. 10 years of marriage doesn't just disappear. I know you still care. You have a good heart. Don't let me go to prison. I looked at him. I looked at the sweat beading on his forehead, the terror in his eyes. For a split second, I felt a twinge in my chest. Pity. It was pathetic to see a man so proud brought so low. But then the memory flashed in my mind. The basement apartment, the mold, the taste of instant noodles because I couldn't afford vegetables. The way he had looked at me when he handed me the divorce papers like I was garbage. The pity evaporated instantly. It didn't turn into hate. It didn't turn into anger. It just turned into silence. I realized with a sudden crystal clarity that I felt absolutely nothing for him. He wasn't a monster anymore. He was just a stranger in a bad suit. It leaves scars. So you'll help? Hope flared in his eyes. No, I said, pressing the security button. I won't. No? Derek stared at me, his mouth hanging open in genuine disbelief. You can't be serious. I'm drowning, Elara. I'm talking about prison time if I don't plug these holes. I know, I said, standing up and smoothing the skirt of my crimson dress. You're heartless. I made you. I gave you a life. You gave me a cage. I corrected him calmly, walking around the desk to face him. I didn't mean it. You meant every word I said. And so do I. The double doors burst open. The head guard asked, eyeing Derek, "Is there a problem?" He was just leaving. Derek lunged toward me, desperation twisting his features, but the guards grabbed his arms before he could take a second step. You owe me, he shouted, spit flying from his lips as they dragged him backward. You owe me, Elara. You can't let me fall like this. I stopped him with a raised hand. The guards paused. I looked him dead in the bloodshot eye. Elara, he howled as they hauled him into the hallway. Elara. The heavy doors swung shut, cutting off his voice instantly. Silence filled the room. I took a deep breath, filling my lungs. My chest, which had felt tight with invisible chains for 2 years, suddenly felt weightless. It was over. I picked up my phone and dialed Maya. She picked up on the first ring. He came, I said, leaning against the window, watching the traffic below. Gone? Gone for good, Maya. I told him no. I sent him away. Yes, Maya screamed so loud I had to pull the phone away from my ear. Ding dong, the witch is dead. Orwell, the warlock is bankrupt. I'm buying the most expensive bottle of tequila in the city. Get over here. I have one more meeting to attend first. I hung up and walked down the hall to the executive suite at the end. I didn't knock. Effin was on a call, staring out the window at the skyline. When he heard the latch click, he turned. He hung up the phone immediately without saying goodbye. Everything okay? He asked, walking toward me. I heard shouting. Just taking out the trash, I said, closing the distance between us. You look ... different. I feel different, I admitted. So what happens now? He asked, leaning back against his desk and crossing his arms. His eyes were guarded. We have that meeting with the Shanghai investors on Monday. Actually, I said, stopping inches from him. I think I'm done with strictly business. His eyes darkened and his jaw tightened. Elara, be sure. I fixed myself. I don't need your money anymore. I don't need your protection. Then why are you here? The guard in his eyes vanished. He reached out, cupping my face in his hands. His touch was warm, solid, and real. When he lowered his head and kissed me, it wasn't possessive like Derek's kisses had been. It was a partnership. It tasted like the future. I closed my eyes, melting into him. The ghosts were gone. 3, 2, 1 ... got cut. The heavy gold scissors sliced through the red ribbon and the crowd erupted into applause. Confetti cannons blasted, raining gold glitter down on the sidewalk of the 10th Phoenix Interiors branch. "You did it, boss!" Chloe screamed, throwing her arms around me. She wasn't the shy intern anymore. She was wearing a sharp navy suit, my new head of regional design. "We did it," I corrected her, laughing as I pulled a piece of confetti from her hair. "I just signed the checks." "You designed the showroom." "True," she grinned. "But you taught me how to fight for my vision." Maya shoved a glass of champagne into my hand. 10 branches in 12 months. "Do you know what the blogs are calling you? The Midas of Manhattan? Better than the weeping wife in aisle 4. I joked, clinking my glass against hers. "Don't remind me," Maya shuddered. "Although without that breakdown, we wouldn't be standing here drinking vintage Dom Perignon." I looked around the room. It was filled with clients, press, and staff who respected me. But my eyes landed on the people closest to me, Maya, who had dragged me out of bed, Chloe, who had scrubbed floors with me, and Ethan. He was standing by the pillar, watching me with that quiet, steady pride. He walked over, slipping his arm around my waist. "Tired?" "Energized," I replied, leaning into him. "You know, a year ago I thought rich meant the bank balance Derek had. I thought it was the country club membership and the diamonds. And now?" "Now?" I looked at Maya, laughing with Chloe. I looked at the contract in my office that guaranteed my employees full benefits. I looked at Ethan. Now, rich is loyalty. It's freedom. "Well," Ethan smiled, kissing my temple. "The millions in the bank don't hurt either. They definitely help," I laughed. "Take me for a drive? Where to?" "Just a loop. I need to close a tab." We took his car, the city blurring past us in streaks of light. We turned onto Maple Drive. The manicured lawns were perfect except for one. We crawled past number 42, my old house. The rose bushes I had planted were dead, choked by weeds. The windows were dark. And there, stuck firmly in the overgrown grass, was a sign, "Foreclosure, bank owned, auction pending." "He lost it," Ethan said, his voice devoid of judgment. "It's really gone." "It looks so small," I said, staring at the facade that used to intimidate me. "I used to think this house was my entire world. It just looks like a pile of bricks." "No," I said immediately, "there's nothing in there for me. My life is back in the city." I looked at the foreclosure sign one last time. I didn't feel glee at Derek's ruin. I just felt light. The past was a closed book, and I had written a sequel that was infinitely better. "Let's go home." As we accelerated away, leaving the rotting house in the rearview mirror, I took a deep breath. The divorce didn't break me. I wasn't just Elara Vance, the ex-wife. I was Elara, the architect of my own destiny. I was whole, I was powerful.